Gentlemen, today's the day. The legend himself. I'm doing an interview with Ash the Chap Jones here on Big Pretty Man. Hi, and welcome back to Big Pretty Man, the channel for the extra large man who wants to live his life large and in charge. I'm your host, Timothy Big Pretty Crowe, a wardrobe and lifestyle consultant for the extra large man. And folks, we're not talking to an extra large man today, but we are talking to a legend in Sartorial style on YouTube. You know, and actually a man who I consider one of my best friends. We're talking, of course, about Ash the Chap Jones from the Chap Guide. Welcome, Ash. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thanks, Tim. It's my absolute pleasure to join you today.
Yeah, you know, Ash is actually visiting me here in Philadelphia. He's flown all the way from the UK to be at my wedding, which most of my fans know is coming up in like 3 days. He is going to be my best man and one of the readers at my wedding, and I'm very honored that he has taken the time and expense to come all the way here for my wedding. It's a true show of friendship. I do thank you, pal.
Trust me, Tim, it is my pleasure, 100%, and it's my honour to be here and join you on your very special day with Heather.
And I've given him a good day too. He's in Philly, of course. We had to get the cheesesteak. We had to do the Rocky Run. You know, all the fun stuff of Philadelphia. We've had a wonderful time, and I'm glad we're here doing this interview. I don't get this is actually the first chance I've had to interview another Sartorial expert. So there's a couple of questions I would like to ask you to get your opinion on. First thing I'd like to say, how would you describe your personal style?
Personal style? It's a hard one, that, isn't it? Because I think it's like a fingerprint, because everybody's style is kind of individual to them. And whilst I like to think of my style as quite classical, I'm definitely quite conservative. You know, if you looked at me walking down the street, you would say there's a man who conforms to what you would consider to be the sort of template of an intentionally well-dressed man. But I like to remain contemporary. You know, I wouldn't want to stray into something flamboyant to the degree of looking circus-like, yet still I wouldn't want to be so grey and perfunctory as to disappear into the sea of other people who are the same. So it's about striking that tightrope, isn't it, of being elegant without straying into the world of flamboyant. It's hard to strike it, but that's what I aim for.
You know, and I think you make a good point. You know, I've said in my videos, you know, we should be confident. We should dress well. We should find some elegance in our dress, some sophistication in our dress, but at the same time, you still want to maintain some individuality, and I think that's kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to, as I call it, the suit clone. You know, everybody looks exactly the same. You know, I don't want to look just like everybody else. I want to be well dressed, but I want to stand out. But like you said, I don't want to be a clown. No. You know, to achieve that.
No, I mean, I dress for myself. Right, so somebody asked me a question on my channel the other day, you know, how would you respond if somebody said you're dressing to make yourself look more, to increase your status amongst others, make other people feel bad? And I don't. I literally dress for myself, because I know when I dress in a certain way, it boosts my confidence, it makes me feel better about my appearance, and that makes me approach life in a more positive outlook. And that's all I aim to do. So my style is about me, rather than conforming to any normality. It's about me feeling better about myself. Now, if that meant wearing slightly more outlandish clothes than other people typically do, I would do that. But for me, I like to stay within the lines of what is kind of acceptable, but I stray towards the end of being a little bit more gregarious in my outfits.
You know, and you know me. I'm definitely sharing that. You know, I've said, you know, I would describe mine as modified classic with a little flair.
Oh, certainly.
You know, and I definitely, but like even between the two of us, I dress a little more flamboyantly than you do, a little more, you know. But at the same time, I think that you do achieve it, because you wear a lot of striped colors. You wear a lot of really good. Pocket squares, you know, you bring that color in there, and I think that's what it is.
I mean, if I was to be entirely honest, Tim, I envy the confidence you have in your clothing. Because I know you wear bowler hats. I walked with you around the streets of Philadelphia yesterday. You were wearing a white bowler hat, a summer hat. Hot day here in Philly. And it elicited compliments from people as we walked down the street. You know, a woman I recall sat on the porch of her house. She shouted out to you, "Nice hat." You've got to have a certain confidence. I don't think I have that level of confidence. I still have, I feel a little reticent in the way I dress, in so much as you have a higher level of self-esteem, I think, than I do when it comes to your clothing style. And I still feel like I need to steer between the lines, because that is perhaps my Britishness coming through. I know as an American you perhaps have more self-confidence than I would typically anyway, because it's the nature of your nation to be like that. But I envy it. I really do envy it.
You know, but the thing is, you say that, but at the same time, I've seen you try to step outside that, and you know, I said that, you know, that me and you feed off of each other in a lot of ways, and I think I've seen where you've definitely influenced me in my videos and in my dress and in my attire, and I think I've thrown a little bit that way.
Well, I mean, look what's on top of your head. I mean, a few years ago, I remember you challenged me to wear a bowler hat for 2 weeks.
I did.
And I did. So I bought a bowler hat from eBay. It didn't cost a lot of money, under £20. And as soon as I put it on, I thought I would never wear a bowler hat. You know, it's something, it seemed to me at that time to be a historical item that men used to wear. As soon as I put it on, I thought, do you know what? This bloody suits me. I can wear this hat. I wore it for the 2 weeks in my daily activities, you know, as I walked around wearing a suit or whatever, not obviously, you know, doing the shopping. But it influenced me to the point that now a bowler hat I would describe as my favourite hat. So certainly, you know, there are certain points of that confidence which was rubbed off.
But you did tell me, you actually said in the video, you went to the supermarket in it.
I have done, because I felt it was important to live with that hat for that 2 weeks. And I would encourage anybody to try that. If there's an item that you're thinking that you could introduce into your wardrobe, try it for a couple of weeks. Don't spend a load of money on it. Buy a second-hand one, whatever it may be, whatever item you're thinking about now. You will be surprised how it makes you feel. It's an inanimate thing, but it can change your outlook on your physicality. And I thank you enormously for introducing me to the bowler hat.
Well, you're the chap, as I said in the challenge. How can the chap not have a video on a bowler hat or own one?
Well,
it's a stereotype, but I mean, come on.
I'll never be without one now. I mean, it's funny that it's history. You know, it's quite synonymous with the US.
It really is.
Many of the
West
guys on the range wore bowler hats because they were more practical than the Stetsons. They didn't blow off your head. They were tougher, more robust. The brim still provides, you know, protection from the sun. And they're such a practical hat. I don't know why they've fallen out of fashion. I hope they come back in.
Me too. I'm on a campaign for that. I get more, I said in my video, but I get more compliments of anything I wear. I get more compliments on this hat, even particularly this black one, my black bowler hat.
Yeah, and I witnessed it yesterday, so it's
and I was
absolutely
wearing a
true.
white, I was wearing a white summer one that's maybe is a straw hat, but it's in a bowler style because it's hot. But you know, at the same time, something you said before, and I hadn't noticed with you, is that, and you're talking about your background being British. You know, the British thing, and I don't think it's so much as maybe your background. We are the result of our background. You were military,
Yeah.
and then you were a police officer.
Yeah.
And all that is about spit and polish. Everything should be precise and right. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this, you was a little hesitant about the four-in-hand tie knot. Why? It wasn't even.
Yeah.
And I told you, I said in the comments, I'm like, Ash, it's not supposed to be even. If it's even, it doesn't look right. That shows the sophistication of something hand done.
You're right, and I've come to embrace that. I mean, I think now there's that term, isn't it, sprezzatura. It's the sort of left of centre, and I kind of understand. I didn't used to, because you're right. I was in the military, I was in the police, uniform professions where the way you appear, your clothing style, is strictly regulated because of the impact it has on people you encounter. And so I was always about being squared away, everything symmetrical. And the four-in-hand to me was anathema to the way I would normally dress. But actually, I often choose a four-in-hand knot now because it's an expression of one's personality to a degree. So yes, you're absolutely right.
And I'm the same thing with you and things you influenced me. Shining shoes. You actually really helped me in shining shoes. I wasn't the best at it before I watched how you were doing it, and there's where that spit and polish literally come in. I'm like, this is a man that knows how to shine shoes. You know, military,
Yes.
all that. You know how to shine shoes. And I still think you're the best instructor for shining shoes on YouTube. I really do. If you want to learn how to shine your shoes, watch this guy. I'm telling you. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
so I like how we've fed off each other, and we and part of our evolution has been, kind of walked a little bit together. Which brings me to my next question. Tell me about your own style and your own sartorial journey.
Okay, well, you've kind of hinted to it already because I'm from, you've got to look into somebody's background before you think about where style begins for them. So I'm 53, so I'm from an era, this goes back a bit now. And I'm from a very poor working class area where in South Wales, so a mining community where, life was rather tough for people and there wasn't a lot of money. And my sort of childhood was not in any way, lacking in anything, but I didn't grow up in an affluent community or anything like that. So, you didn't see typically men walking around with shirts and ties. And I think my first exposure to the way that clothing impacted on me was as quite a young boy. I joined the Air Cadets, so a youth military organisation in the UK. And we started to wear a uniform. And that involved ironing your trousers, polishing your shoes. And I used to have a parade at the beginning of the evening, and whoever had the shiniest shoes would get the best compliments from the commanding officer. And it would be a bit of a personal pride. You would want to be the one that the commander would say, lovely shoes, they'd compliment you. That's where it began. It was about pleasing other people, but also self-satisfaction. Then I ended up joining the military proper, and that's where we learned the value of one's clothing, because when you wear a uniform, you represent your country. Yes, you do, of course, the body that you're wearing that uniform for, but yourself as an individual. And again, when you stand in a parade amongst other people, you're judged on your execution of that uniform, the shiny shoes, the creases in your trousers, lots of things. And then when I left the military, I went into the police service. Again, for a while I was in a uniform part of it. Most of my career was non-uniform, but the value of the uniform, I realised because I would often go into a situation, a dynamic situation where perhaps there would be high tempers and things like that. And you realise that your uniform impacted on the people you walked into that room. They would amend their behaviour. Somebody who was getting angry and aggressive, when they saw the uniform, they would alter their behaviour because they knew there would be an outcome for them if they continued in that way in the presence of you in that uniform. And I realised the way that I present myself is important. It impacts upon that reaction from people. And that carried when I became a civilian, because I realised if I wear my clothing in a certain way, I shine my shoes, I put a crease in my trousers, I iron my clothes. These are things which people seem to forget in the modern era. Put an iron on things. I realised that it would not only elicit compliments from people, but it would make me feel better as a person, because I dress for myself, I don't dress for others generally, and I know that if I dress in a certain way, it would make me feel better. So that's my evolution really, from being exposed to the effects of dressing well from a young age, and as I am now entering my sort of later middle years, one would say, I know that I feel better, and the reaction that I have on other people is affected by the way I dress. I mean, I was only saying to Tim earlier, I'm staying in downtown Philadelphia in an Airbnb, and I walked across the road to a bar earlier, as I am dressed now, wearing a sort of sports jacket, and a shirt with a collar. I stood at the bar, ordered a drink, and a woman who was sat at the bar enjoying her evening, shall we say, enjoyed it a bit too much, one might say. She was slurring her words, but she looked over at me and said, "Hi there, would you like to join me for a drink?" Now, I take it as a compliment that she invited me to join her for a drink. I chose not to do so. If my wife is watching this, absolutely not. Obviously, I never would. But the point is, I believe it was because of the way I was dressed. It elicits a response in the people that we encounter. And that's why I dress that way. That's why I take an effort.
And we've talked about this before. I've always said that, what people are attracted to, no matter what your sexuality, what you are attracted to, people are attracted to a lot of social cues. And one of those, it's not just the physical, it's the social cues. We go by how someone is dressed to rate them socially and rank in their economic and social worth. And nothing says that better than being well dressed. And the details, like you said, being the right creases in the right place, the ironing done, the proper fit.
Yeah.
That takes effort, and people see that. Women see that.
Oh yeah.
And they're, and in fact, it's such a big influence even over the instinctive physical that I've personally, I'm a heavy man. I've talked about this before here on my channel. And I have had several times when maybe a little competition from a much younger man who was physically fit, but he was dressed like crap, and the one walked right past them to me. Why? Because I look like I have something. I look like I have sophistication. I'm well dressed. I have that attention to detail. I'm obviously, putting out a confidence, and I think that's another thing. Mm-hmm. When you dress well and you show that attention to yourself, that shows, one, you care about yourself first. That shows confidence. Yes. And people pick up on these cues. And I think that's the reason why someone would walk around looking like they got dressed out of their hamper, I'll never understand.
No, and it's a sad indictment because it doesn't cost a lot of money either to be intentionally well dressed.
And that actually brings me to the next question, which you kind of already answered. What do you think? You've been, I would have been two-part here. You've been in Philadelphia here with me for like 3 or 4 days, and kind of like really experience, a bit of our culture. I know you've been in the United States before, but Philly's its own planet, as you figured out. One, how are you feeling about this type of really in-depth experience of American culture? I've had him tag with me everywhere we went, everything I've done.
Yep.
And one, and two, how do you think about the way people dress here? The style, the modern way people dress here, and is there, you see any difference between here and like in the UK? So it's kind of a 3-parter.
Yes, well, I'll try and answer all of them. I mean, first of all, I would say I don't see many differences. I think the UK generally, the people, I've had quite a lot of exposure to people, deeply exposed to people here now, and I would say that there is this predominance of athleisure. I hate the word athleisure, but it alludes to the fact that people are dressing as if they go to the gym. They're undertaking a sporting activity. Even though in many cases, the people who are dressed in these sports clothes quite clearly haven't seen the inside of a gym in 10 years. Which, I don't take issue with that, but it's not flattering. This is the point. They're wearing clothing which is unflattering. And it's very similar in the UK as it is here. It's not uncommon. I have seen people wearing nightwear, pajamas, in a public place. Certainly in the UK, certainly here, it's in a nice part of town here, so less so, generally, but you rarely see people who've made an effort, either here. I think it's a curse of modern society. So yes, I would see that is endemic between our nations now. I mean, when I first started coming to America, probably 20 years ago, there was a bit more of a gap. I would say America was more casual than the UK. Now I would say that there's parity.
Probably,
We've been so influenced by American culture in the UK because of the internet, social media. They are cultures which are so interlinked now. You can hardly draw a parallel between them. So yeah, that's what I see.
What do you think about the future? Where do you think all this is heading?
I think that you can only go so low.
You gotta hit a bottom sooner or later, right?
I posed this question to William Skinner the other day, the managing director of Dedge & Skinner in Savile Row. I met him in an event a little while ago, and I said very similar to him. I said, where do you see the future of men's style? And he said, I think there will always be those men amongst us who choose to stand out from the crowd. You know, the animals who step apart from the herd. And they are the ones. In the past, it was the other way around. If you think back a generation ago, people like Steve Jobs, right? He was well known as being a super successful businessman who didn't wear a suit and tie. He wore that black roll neck sweater, didn't he? Which became his sort of calling card. He was known because he didn't dress in a suit and tie. And as now that's become the norm, when you look at people like Elon Musk, what's his name, Zuckerberg, you know, all of those, what's his name, Jeff Bezos, you know, these hyper successful entrepreneurs, none of them are known for being well dressed. None of them are, you know, traditionally stylish men. I think because of that, the next generation, we've hit the bottom, now we're going to bounce up. And you will see people dressing well to stand apart from the casuality which the current, you know, captains of industry have chosen to adopt as their personal style.
You know, we saw a little bit of that walking yesterday. When we both pointed out we saw some very well-dressed men. More than one. Normally, at one point, even, you know, there's this whole casual wear at the office. We were passing men very well-dressed, obviously heading to work, briefcases, not backpacks, and that's some style. And I'm like you, and I said that, you know, we're in America especially, we can go from extremes. We'll go one direction on one thing, and then all of a sudden we get sick of it, or we wear it out. We'll swing all the way back, and I think we need seeing the beginnings of that swing back.
I agree.
People are only so long can you look like a bum. I mean,
you're right. I mean, I keep an eye on the sort of style press as part of, you know, my research for my channel, and statistically, in the UK at least, we're seeing sales of suits and more classically elegant clothing on the increase. So I see it coming back up, and I think that's a good thing, not because I'm deeply wedded to people dressing in a formal style, but because I know to dress more intentionally is better for men. They will have more self-esteem, better confidence, and it will impact upon their quality of life.
I agree. Because, you know, I always say, if you don't love yourself, nobody else is going to love you.
Totally. It begins with you, doesn't it?
It starts with you, and if you don't have that, I don't care what you're doing, people are going to pick up those social cues. They're going to know you feel like crap about yourself, and they're going to treat you like crap.
Totally.
You know, what you put out is what you're going to get back.
I agree entirely.
Yeah. You know, and you know, in this channel, you know, for men extra large, I really have to push that point. If you think you look sloppy, you think you look nasty, and you're dressing that way because that's what you think, how do you think other people are going to react to you, and how are they going to have any respect for you? You dress nice, maybe a big guy, all right, big deal. You dress nice, you get the crease, you get the fit, you get the iron, you know, you get the accessories and all that, right? How do they think you're going to, you know, what kind of man do you think how are they going to think of you as a man? What are they going to think about you? They're going to think you're confident. They're going to think you are a big man, big, large, and in charge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, that's true of any group. Being well-dressed gets a reaction. And as you said, you get a reaction from out of people. When you're well-dressed, people do treat you differently.
You do, and you get those compliments. I mean, as we walked down the street yesterday, I noticed something you did, again, linked to your personal confidence, is that a man walking towards us who was very well-dressed, you complimented him.
Yes, I did.
You said to him, well done, sir, you've dressed well today. And as he walked past us, there was a spring in his step. I imagine he felt better all day about his clothing choices, and tomorrow when he puts his clothes on again, he will choose, maybe, to continue that theme. So I would strongly advise people, you know, if you're interested in style and men's style, if you see somebody who's well dressed, pass it on. Say, well done, sir. You're looking sharp today. Because it has an enormous impact. Imagine how it would feel if somebody said that to you and the boost that you would receive. So it's our job, really, as people who are interested in style, to pass that on, to boost that confidence for other people. And this is how we will, you know, bring self-esteem and better confidence back to men.
You know, and one last example, I'll talk about that with that. I just thought of it. When I was waiting for you at the airport the other day, of course, I'm meeting the chap. I'm not going, you know, casual. I put it, hot or not, I had it all on. You know, I dressed it up to the nines. So I'm standing there waiting for him, and what got me, I looked around this airport now, and the only people dressed in a suit and tie other than me were the chauffeurs waiting for people. It was just me. And there were several women. I had two women compliment me on my dress. And then I got eyed up and down by a couple stewardesses as they was coming. I wouldn't really give me the high, you know. If I said a word, I think I'd have been in. But I am getting married, so those I can just run to the end of my chain and bark. That's all I can do. But you know, and it's that thing. Was I the most fit man there? Was I the most handsome man? Well, yes, I was, but but no. I mean, was I the most fit young man there? No, not by a long shot. But who do they look at? They look at things in the sport wear, or what do they call them, athletic suits? When did athletic wear become a suit? A suit. You know. No, they looked at me, and I think that's a testament to it. You know.
Totally.
I think you know. Okay. I think one of the last questions I want to ask, or two. Two more, we're done. Okay, if of all the things you wear, of all all of your wardrobe, if there was a fire in your house right now, and knock on wood, that doesn't happen, we ain't gonna talk it here. But if your house caught on fire, you could only grab one item out of your wardrobe, one item that you have, one thing of wardrobe. What would it be?
Okay, now I know what you choose because it's on top of your head. But for me, and it's kind of something which makes me feel good every time I put it on. I haven't got it with me today actually, but it is my navy blazer. Now we've talked about this many times. You know, the navy blazer, and you coined to my mind the phrase, the navy blazer is the little black dress of men's attire. Because, you know, when a woman, regardless of the situation that she's going into,
Little black dress always works.
Little black dress works. You know, whether you're going to a wedding, a funeral, an office party, it makes you feel good. It makes you look good. Black is a complimentary colour for a lady. It's what they choose. The blazer, the navy woolen blazer, single-breasted, notched lapel, flat pockets, simple as hell, right? But it works for me. It's a jacket which I know I can wear with a pattern shirt and, you know, maybe a pair of slacks. Maybe I'm wearing khaki trousers now. You can't see them, but that's what I'm wearing. It's something I could wear out in the evening, maybe just going out to a bar for a drink or whatever. However, take that same outfit, put a tie on, I'm sharp enough to go to the office. I can go to a wedding. I can go to, you know, put a black tie on. You can almost wear it to a funeral. You could wear it to a court appearance. Whatever situation you're facing in life, which you might ordinarily only consider a suit to wear to, your navy blazer can do. You could even wear a navy blazer with blue denim jeans. It's one of the very few formal items which crosses that boundary of formal and casuality that allows you to wear it in so many situations. It's complementary to your appearance. You know, the blazer, by its very nature, you know, it accentuates your shoulders, makes you look broader, cinches in at the waist, it makes you look slimmer and fitter. That's what I would. That's what I would pick.
Unless it's formal wear, event, you know, you need a tux and tie. You can always get away with a blue blazer.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
I can't think of a situation where it wouldn't work.
If I was starting my wardrobe from scratch, that would
Which is going to be my other question. What would you recommend someone just starting off?
Well, if I was starting off today and I wanted, say I was a casual dresser, you know, I typically wear jeans and a t-shirt. My starting point would be just elevate yourself. I've talked about this in the past. Imagine that the way that you dress is like the volume level on your hi-fi system. Hi-fi, that's an old way of saying it.
Yeah, it shows our age.
Yeah, it is. But, you know, imagine it's the volume level. So just click it up one. So instead of wearing trainers or tennis shoes or, you know, sneakers, whatever you call them, but go one step higher. You know, wear a pair of desert boots, wear a chukka boot. You don't have to go full bloody brogue straight away, but, you know, that might be your destination. But just click it up one step for you so that you're not feeling unusual, but you're just turning up your style level by one single volume. Instead of the jeans, wear chinos. Casual, you don't have to iron them, you don't have to have a crease. They can be nice, easy to wear clothing, but you've moved yourself up one level. Instead of wearing a polo shirt or a t-shirt, wear a polo shirt. If you wear a polo shirt, wear a dress shirt with a collar. Something which is just that one step higher. And, you know, if you don't feel comfortable with a sports jacket to start with, Harrington style jacket or a blouson style jacket, and move it up as you get more gradually confident in the clothing that you wear, because they're always going to be there. The clothes that you just bought They're going to be things you can wear. And remember, you don't have to pay a pile of money either. Half of the clothes which I wear, I bought from eBay, right? The jackets I'm wearing now.
And the jacket I'm wearing now, I got from eBay.
This jacket is from a British company called Brook Taverner, right? I bought it on eBay, it was £20. The shirt I'm wearing, it's from Savile Row manufacturer Gives and Hawkes. I bought it on eBay, probably around £20.
It's a great shirt.
You don't have to pay big money, so you don't have to put too much skin in the game. If you buy it and it's not for you, you've lost nothing. So that's what I would say. Don't be afraid to experiment. You don't have to pay money. eBay is your friend when you're on your own style journey.
I completely agree. And I've said myself, if I have to recommend any one thing to start with, get a blue blazer and go from there. It'll build from there. It really will. I completely agree with that. Now, speaking of people of style, who would you pick today? Actor, politician, or some public figure. Who would you pick today you think is always sharp and right in everything they do?
Well, I mean, for me, I've done a video on it myself on my own channel. There's one guy who I think has exemplified being well-dressed for many, many years, decade after decade, been in the public eye, and it is the king of the United Kingdom. So Charles III. So during his many, many decades as Prince of Wales, he was a man who clearly, as a very young man, he was Prince of Wales. So he lived his entire life in the public eye. When he was very fit, very young, very active, he played polo and sport, he was a military officer, he was a pilot, he was a parachutist, he's lived a full life. And in his earlier years, he beat that path. He patronised, his first ever royal warrant that he issued was to Turnbull and Asser in Jermyn Street, the shirt manufacturer. Still there today, proudly displaying his warrant now as king, in their store. And when you look at the way he's dressed, it has been classical, it has been conservative, but with a twist. He is the guy who wears the boutonniere. He wears a number of lapel badges. He wears his ties in a certain style, often four in hand, little bit sort of sprezzatura-ish. But he adopts an interesting and individual way of dressing. He has unlimited funds. He can wear anything he wants. However, he has his suits repaired. He's well known for being somebody who's very frugal. His shoes, right? He does wear bespoke shoes from, John Lobb, finest shoemaker in the world. But he's well known for owning a pair of shoes for more than 50 years. He's got a pair of shoes that have been in his collection for over 50 years. They've been patched, visibly patched.
Mm-hmm.
Do a Google search on it. You can see they've honed in on the images. So whilst he's, clearly has access to, he's a de facto billionaire.
Yeah.
Money means nothing to him. However, he dresses in the styles which are quite timeless, quite elegant. You could take a suit that he wore 50 years ago and wear it today and it wouldn't look out of place. In fact, it would look bang up to date. So I would say the king, for me, has been a style icon. Admittedly, he's only been a king for a year, but during his period as Prince of Wales, I think he set the standard for intentionally well-dressed men and set that sort of icon for us to follow. So yes, very much so.
I agree. It's a very good choice, how I am about Great Britain and royalty. God save the king. So yeah, and he is. He I think he's exquisite and a great role model. I think for people when it comes to wear. Like you said, he could go. He can go all out, but yet at the same time, even he shows some frugality. Even he shows a little conservatism, and not wasting. And if the king can do that, then we can get something off eBay. If the king's wearing, having his shoes patched, I could buy some new shoes.
Totally.
If I have to,
Yeah.
So, last thing I'm going to ask you, Ash, is. And I find this interesting. If you had to pick a song that most inspires you, your favorite song, that really speaks to who you are, what would that song be?
Okay, well, I mean, there's one song. I'm a product of my age, right? So I really came of age in the 1990s, I would say. When I was more conscious of popular culture.
Now, me and you are the same age, so so 80s and 90s.
I've got a very eclectic taste of music, to be honest. I mean, I listen to anything, and jazz and country and everything. But
I think as older men, we do that.
Yeah.
You know, we become more eclectic because you don't care what other people think what you're listening to.
You're right.
So,
but I often find myself harking back to the 90s because I think that was the best era of music for me, anyway. And there's one particular band, British band, pop band, Duran Duran. Right? You know, it's not high culture, this, I'm being honest. But Duran Duran were a band which were very prevalent in that period of my life when I was going out and going to nightclubs. In fact, I was in the military and I was living in Germany at the time, I think, when this one came out. But there's one track which they, in their sort of second coming, because they'd had their sort of real fame period in the 80s. And in the 90s...
Early to mid-80s,
yeah, and in the 90s they came back with an album called The Wedding Album. And one of the songs on that album was called Ordinary World. And it struck a chord with me because I think it was written by Simon Le Bon, and he wrote it. I didn't realise at the time for many years, but he wrote it to help him cope with a period of grief. There'd been a loss, somebody he knew, and the title, Ordinary World, is about, and the song is about him striving to get through life, striving towards the ordinary world, getting back to normality. And quite often, when I'm going through a difficult period in life, I will fall back to that song because I just love the lyrics and the feeling, you know, the meaning behind that song. And I mean, obviously we can't play it because, you know, it would disqualify us for monetization.
Yeah.
But I would urge you to seek that one out, listen to it, Duran Duran, Ordinary World, and just listen to the words. And it's almost like a blueprint for life, you know, for a difficult moment. And I often fall back to it, and I listen to it probably weekly. It helps me on my life journey.
That's a very good pick. I love that song too. And now I will say we've both interviewed each other.
Yes.
And we've asked each other similar questions. But I find it very interesting that neither one of us picked "Sharp Dressed Man" by ZZ Top, which would really apply to both of us. I mean, but yeah, but I think that it's for, you know, it's not just us dressing. It shows we're more deep individuals in what we like. And that's a wonderful choice.
Thank you.
Well, Ash, it has been an absolute honor to have you here in Philadelphia, to be your guide here. And thank you so much for honoring me with this sit-down here on YouTube. This has one of the heights of my YouTube career, is to have you on. You were an inspiration to me before I started. You're still an inspiration to me. So thank you for that. And you were, like I said, you're one of my best friends.
Oh, trust me, it is my pleasure to be here, and it's an absolute joy. And to all those folks in America who are out there listening to this, you know, it's my pleasure to come to your country and spend time amongst you. It's one of my favourite places in the world, and what a wonderful people you all are. So, yeah, my pleasure to be here.
And as far as all that goes, all you folks out there, just remember to be like me and Ash and stay pretty.